From Ukraine's front lines to the Indo-Pacific, low-cost drones are rewriting the rules of war, leaving the once dominant US military racing to catch up. Pentagon leaders warn the first fight of the next war will be swarmed by unmanned aircraft. Inside Fort Bliss and NATO training grounds, America scrambles to arm every soldier with a drone, or risk losing the skies it long ruled. As the future of warfare is arriving on a whir of propellers, battle feels like a video game with virtual reality playing a vital and decisive role. With unmanned systems redefining modern battlefields from Ukraine to the Indo-Pacific, the US military, once long dominant in the skies, now faces an uncomfortable reality. The world's most advanced armed force is scrambling to catch up. According to a report by CNN, the Pentagon is moving urgently to close a capability gap that senior commanders now call a critical operational priority. According to the report, soldiers of the Multifunctional Reconnaissance Company at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, recently trained on first-person view quadcopters, the type of small unmanned aerial vehicles dominating combat in Ukraine. With an explosive payload, a drone costing under $1,000 can disable a main battle tank worth millions. For many US troops, the tactics and technology are still unfamiliar, a lag senior defense officials acknowledge is unacceptable. But the US drone dilemma expedited with Russia's invasion of Ukraine that accelerated global advances in drone warfare. Despite its sophisticated defense industrial base, the United States was slow to scale mass production of low-cost expendable systems, focusing instead on high-end aircraft, armored platforms, and precision munitions, which US defense officials are now rushing to catch up. In July, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth circulated a memo to senior leaders aimed at accelerating the US military's adoption of drones.
Lethality will not be hindered by self-imposed restrictions, especially when it comes to harnessing technologies we invented, but were slow to pursue. Drone technology is advancing so rapidly, our major risk is risk avoidance. Next year, I expect to see this capability integrated into all relevant combat training, including force-on-force drone wars.
Major General Kurt Taylor, US Army commander, reinforced the urgency at an Army conference in Germany, stating,
"This is not tomorrow's problem. This is today's problem, and the first fight of the next war is going to involve more drones than any of us have ever seen."
Ukraine's experience is shaping US policy. Domestic drone production remains constrained by the requirement to avoid Chinese components, driving up costs. According to CNN, Kyiv has offered to collaborate. During a White House meeting last month, President Volodymyr Zelensky proposed a $50 billion co-production program capable of supplying 10 million drones annually over 5 years. Ukraine's Vice Prime Minister Mikhailo Fedorov told the CNN network,
"In the past 6 months especially, there's been some kind of radical change in the perception of how drones work and the development of the industry. This is a geopolitical card that our president will consider how to use. It would be a big help to our allies, and this is exactly the right relationship to have with them. We provide high-quality drones, high-quality data, and our expertise, and then we get back more security assistance."
At a conference center in Wiesbaden, Germany, in July, Ukrainian military leaders presented a blunt assessment of NATO's need to invest in drones to a packed room of NATO military officials and defense industry wonks. Major Robert Madya-Brovdy, commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces of Ukraine, waged a bet that there is not a single tank of the road that could survive first-person view drones known as FPV drones.
You should also understand that our experience is super valuable for all of you here, as none of the countries have this kind of experience nowadays.
Colonel Nick Ryan, whose office oversees the integration of unmanned aircraft into the Army, told CNN there are already plans in place to ensure every unit in the Army receives unmanned aircraft systems in fiscal year 2026.
The ultimate goal is for soldiers to treat drones as if it was their personal weapon, their radio, their night vision goggles, or a grenade. That it's just something they're so used to and so familiar with that it's just part of their standard kit that they take with them everywhere they go.
The initial 2-week training at Fort Bliss in El Paso starts in a classroom where soldiers learn how to build their own drones, crucial for the knowledge of how to fix something in the field if something goes wrong. Then they start practicing how to fly with a computer simulator that gets them used to what is essentially a video game controller. When that's mastered, soldiers take their drones to an FPV gym of sorts, where they can practice flying through hanging tires or doorways and even into a cardboard replica, with exact measurements found online of an adversary's armoured vehicle. The training isn't just happening in Texas. In Europe, every US Army unit rotating through the region will leave with company-level training on drones, including using them to drop live munitions. Brigadier General Terry Tillis, commander of the 7th Army Training Command in Germany, told reporters in Wiesbaden in July. These training courses are constantly adjusted using feedback from other US soldiers, as well as what the military is observing in Ukraine with drone warfare. Speaking to CNN, Brigadier General Andy Kaiser, Deputy Commanding General of Operations for the 82nd Airborne Division, highlighted the tactical impact.
A small drone could take the place of a forward observer, a soldier who identifies targets for artillery fire or air support. They can also enhance the work of cavalry scouts, who are largely responsible for reconnaissance and other missions to gather information about enemy forces. We can identify potentially any armor ambushes, small ambushes. We can ensure we've got actual enemy threats in buildings before we strike, because we can get in there and look at windows and see what's postured to attack us moving forward.
From Fort Bliss to the Donbas, the lesson is clear. Dominance in future conflicts will depend not only on advanced platforms, but on the rapid deployment of agile, low-cost, unmanned systems. For the US military, integrating drones across the force is no longer an experiment. It is an operational necessity.